till shade is gone,
till water is gone,
into the shadow with teeth bared,
screaming defiance with the last breath,
to spit in Sightblinder's eye on the last day.
by my honor and the light.
My life will be a dagger for Sightblinder's heart.
Until the last day. To Shyle Ghul itself.
This is A Dagger for Sightblinder, a podcast focused on all things Wheel of Time, with your hosts,
Sarah Lucas
and Adam Tricola. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Dagger for Sightblinder. May you find shade this day, even as Sarah is losing it right now. How are you doing today, Sarah? I hope the shade isn't overcoming you currently.
I'm good. How are you? We're good.
I'm really enjoying you just cracking up so hard and me starting the episode mid-laugh. It's good.
I know. That's so rude of you.
It's a new form of shade.
Oh man. All right, we're good. There's so much shade being thrown at me viciously.
Accidentally, maliciously. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's a quote. That's a quote from Despicable Me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You've seen it?
Literally once.
That sounds literal.
Yeah. It was a literal one-time viewing.
Did you not like it?
I did like it. It's just not on my top go-to.
So I have kids, and
yeah,
we watch all kinds of random crap, but it's one of my favorites. It's got some really good adult humor, not like oh my, isn't that adult? Oh, but it's like relevant and funny for adults. It's good. Mm-hmm. Especially I think though, because you see him trying to be a dad and you're like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this compared to that guy.
I mean, do you compare your parenting skills to that of a Pixar parent often?
You know, sometimes you got to get a win. All right.
You know what? Fair.
Sometimes we just need wins.
That is fair.
I just made myself sad.
You can't tell because you're laughing.
Laughing or crying, who knows? We're releasing endorphins. So yeah. All right, so we're finishing this book and we've got changes on the horizon, and there's a lot to cover today. So first I want to mention, guys, just the shameless plug that we do at the start. Just we have a lot of different things going on. We'll have even more things going on, but please, if you want to support the channel, one way you can do it for free is just give us a 5-star review. I mean, give us a review in general. It would help, but 5 stars obviously are preferable on whatever medium, whatever platform you can. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button or leave a comment, even if it just says algo, just helping us. If you haven't subbed us or whatever on YouTube, that's a medium that we're going to be looking into moving on to a little bit more moving forward. And give us a follow on PodBean. There's all kinds of really awesome stuff you can do. Just show your support that way. We would really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sarah would too, guys.
I would.
By she means agreed. That's right. Sarah for I agree.
Right. Sorry, right. I'm trying to build my energy level back up because I spent it all laughing earlier.
It's okay. And making these exhaustive notes.
Yeah,
they're actually great, but no buts. It was actually great. So here's the big thing for us, guys. The change is on the horizon, and me and Sarah have talked about it a lot. We don't know when this is specifically going to happen. Maybe next week, maybe in a month or whatever, but we are going to be changing the nature of this channel a little bit. We started with this whole podcast in excitement for the Wheel of Time, and we want to still cover Wheel of Time, frankly. And Sarah, of course, you can jump in at any point.
Right.
But yeah, so we still want to cover Wheel of Time and talk about it, but we also, I mean, we can't ignore the fact that, you know, like momentum for the channel is kind of slowing a little bit over time. And, you know, the idea is we want to be able to discuss more and more relevant things. And right now, what we're doing is just discussing an amazing book series, but one that's been covered by a ton of different creators on a ton of different levels, and is something that is like new, fresh, and exciting. So we're going to be doing a reading segment for this channel still. We're also, and I think that's going to be its own like separate, we think at least going to be its own separate podcast kind of situation. And then we're going to be doing a second one, and this is all still weekly. We're going to be covering more like kind of current science fiction fantasy shows that'll be happening. So, and that includes, you know, all the different Marvel things, Star Wars, you know, Lord of the Rings. Yeah. And of course, Wheel of Time. And so we're going to be doing that. That's one of, what's that? Go ahead.
Said right.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying, I thought you wanted to say something. I was just running you over, but
don't run me over.
Literally can't, even if I wanted to.
No, but I think, yeah, we're gonna do all the shows, all of the shows, all of them, even the really boring ones.
Right. Yeah. No, we are though.
But we've been talking about wanting to rewatch the first season of Wheel of Time too. So this is the perfect opportunity.
It is. So I think this is a good way to transition from, so I think every week, if you have the podcast, kind of, if you're sub to the podcast, we don't know what it's going to end up being called. Maybe just still Dagger for Sideblinder for everything, maybe a slight rebrand. We're just not sure. But every week there will be a discussion on like a new episode of a show, you know, kind of like our reaction videos that we had for Wheel of Time. And then we'll talk about the book series, and we'll still be working on Wheel of Time. And it'll probably be a shorter cast talking about it. We'll still cover the same number of chapters, but we'll probably spend half an hour instead of an hour talking about them. So we'll be hitting fewer minutia points and more of the main highlights and how it made us and our emotions regarding them. Right.
It'll be good either way. We can't abandon it because I need to figure out what happens.
Yeah. And I don't think, you know, we have a lot of people who actually do listen to this and want to know what happens next, what our discussion is. And so, you know, this isn't us going away by any stretch. It's just us expanding a bit.
Right. Tweaking slightly.
Yeah. So probably watch Wheel of Time, and then we'll rewatch Wheel of Time, do reaction videos to that. And then after that, maybe we, like, Moon Knight will have finished by then, or at least it'll be in full swing. We might jump in on that after the fact. So we might have, you know, but then we'll probably be trying to catch shows as they happen after that.
Yes, I think that's the best plan.
Yeah. And we would love feedback, guys. Actually, if you join our Discord server, which should be linked in any of the mediums that you could be consuming this on, just join our Discord and let us know what you think. We would love to know what your ideas are. And we're also want to start a user or a listener question section where we can interact with people. You can ask ridiculous questions and we can give ridiculous answers.
Hopefully not too ridiculous.
I've always in my mind defined ridiculous just slightly different than everyone else, which causes issues.
I'm not at all surprised that you would do this.
I just tend to think ridiculous is more of a positive than most people do.
All right.
So give us ridiculous questions, like non-pejorative ridiculous, and then we'll give ridiculous answers, potentially pejorative. We'll see.
We'll find out.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
I was gonna try to make a wheel of time. The wheel of time will tell, but that made no funnies whatsoever. So
Missed opportunity.
stick handled. Hashtag.
Oh boy. All right. So anything else you want to get into before we jump ahead?
Hey, you agreed to talk about that. Don't try to play it off as me just rambling, even though I was just rambling a bit.
I did agree. For a second, I thought you meant I agreed to talk about being stick-handled, and I was like, no.
No, you actually did agree for that to be a recurring joke, but you don't seem to like it anymore, so we'll stop.
Just use it so improperly.
I know, that was the joke. It's okay.
It's fine. Okay, so if that's everything, Adam,
I'll forgive the unkindness, Sarah.
If that is everything, so we're gonna finish The Great Hunt today. So we have 11 chapters to go through, chapters 40 to 50.
Man, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Do you feel like did you get more out of it this time than last time?
I got way more out of it this time than last time. Way more. I don't know what the difference was this time.
Yeah, you seemed there's been some times that I'm like, I feel like you should know this, but you don't. Like, I feel like you felt way more invested this time.
I did. I don't know what it was. So baby tip, if you were not invested the first time you read The Great Hunt, read it again.
Yeah, it's like, and yeah, we can't promise you'll like it more, but
I did.
If you're Sarah, you will.
I don't know what it is, but yeah. Okay, but there is like a tiny bit of show news before we go into the book. There is a little bit of show news.
Okay, let's say
minor little, very important show news.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was harping on this the whole first season. They have cast Elias for season 2.
I can't feign like initial like I'm so excited, because I was already excited when I saw you linked it like a few days ago. But it's still very exciting. And
it is.
So here's I don't mean to be a buzzkill here. Yeah, really I don't. But they've been filming season 2 for a good long bit now.
Right.
And the fact that they just now cast him makes me wonder if we just won't see him until the very end of the season, or if he'll have a very limited role.
So, okay, so here's the thing. It doesn't actually say when he was cast. It just says that it is now on his resume. So he could have been cast from the very beginning of season 2. Not saying that was the case, but it could have been a thing. And it's just now coming out. It does say that the director listed for him is various, which means that he's going to be on multiple episodes because he's going to have more than one director directing him.
All right.
I mean, if it is towards the end of the season, it's going to be at least the last 2 episodes that he would be in. And then, I mean, I guess that also depends if it's a recurring role type thing. If he's going to be back for season 3, then it would still say various. But we also know that they don't shoot things necessarily in order. Or there's always reshoots happening. So he could have gotten cast late in the game and then they added him in after the fact.
All right, that's fair. I mean, I expect him to play a similar role to Loyal, frankly. Like Loyal got like 1 or 2 lines per episode. He was in most of the episodes, but after a certain point, but then he was just like, I am loyal. I do things. I do loyal things. And then everyone's like, oh, that's great, Loyal, shut up now. And then he
Right.
did, and we don't see him anymore until he died, but then didn't die.
He's just there as the token Loyal, and Elias will be there as the token Wolf brother.
Right. Oh, like Jordan, not Tolkien, but
Token.
It's like
All right.
drugs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we can stop making jokes now. All right. Well, okay. Let me mimic you. You got anything else?
That sounds so rude.
I know. All right.
On that really kind note.
It was kind because I managed to help you see what you've become.
I have no problems with who I am. All right.
Oh, me either.
All right. Okay, so let's go into the book, because that's literally all the show news, unless you would like to talk about it some more.
I don't got anything else. No, we're good.
All right. So 11 chapters. What?
Spoilers.
Yes, good point. Basically anything in the first two books now, because we're going to go all the way to the end of the second one. And
anything in the first season of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, that should be obvious. I don't know.
Yeah. No. That's fair. First season of the show, first two books.
All right. And
Spoiler.
then next week, just so we're clear, next week we're covering, how many did you look and see ahead, like how many chapters? We didn't
I didn't look at how many chapters are in the Dragon Reborn. I just arbitrarily picked the prologue and the first 9 chapters so that it's 10 chapters, quote unquote, again. Okay,
so we're doing 10 chapters again next book.
Surprise, we're doing 10 chapters next week.
Okay, well, that wasn't in the notes here, I don't think so. Or maybe it's way down below.
It's way down there. It is.
Indeed, I see that.
At the bottom.
I see where you said 9.
It is. I understand my notes are very exhaustive. And it's buried at the bottom, but it is there.
Yeah, there's a lot of notes here. It's good. It shows your thoroughness. That's to be applauded.
Thank you. That was kind.
Or was I just saying I had to plod through them?
Rude. All right. So, chapter 40.
All right. So it's called. How do you pronounce it?
I don't like that they pronounce it Damani.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
But I also don't know if I like domain.
I don't like, in general, I just think it's a problematic word, because if you wanted to pronounce it Damani, it sounds so similar to Domani, which are like, that's like the group of people who live in arid Doman. Like, I'm an American and they're Domani, like, as opposed to being Damani, which I guess you could be a Domani Damani if they captured you and put you in a leash.
Is it domain? Damane?
I don't know. That's the one quibble I have with the way they pronounce things. Almost everything in the audiobooks, I'm like, oh, that's actually better than I thought it was in, like just reading it. The audiobook solved a lot of issues for me, but Damani is the one that I've never been able to get over.
Right. Well,
but
are we going to call it Damani then? The chapter, by the way, is called Damani.
Right. Well, yeah. So I think a lot of people who listen to our show as well also hear Damani, and I guess we'll just have to use contextual evidence to tell which type of thing we're talking about.
Right. Okay, that's fair.
But
that is fair.
Consider my complaint lodged.
Okay.
Not with you, but
Right, that would be rude. Anyway, So if you remember from last week, Egwene and Nynaeve met up with Leandrin, and Elaine and Min followed, and she got all mad, and they went to the Waygate and all this kind of stuff, and they exited the Waygate. Anyway, so in chapter 40, they all exit the Waygate, and they come out and they see this, group of people waiting there that they don't recognize. They're in weird clothes and all this kind of stuff. And they see that there are girls who have collars on them, and they're chained to other women who have like a bracelet, basically. So it's their neck collar is chained to somebody else's bracelet. Anyway, and Leandrin just is like, yeah, here are the two girls I told you about, have them. And this one here is the daughter heir. And yeah, these are them. And just hands them on over to these strange people. Doesn't answer any of the questions from the girls, like doesn't want, just is ignoring them. And that's when, Egwene kind of realizes that like this is not gonna go well. And Min attacks a soldier, and while that's happening, Nynaeve gets mad and she starts channeling, and it's just pure chaos from all sides. And in this chaos, Nynaeve and Elaine are able to escape, but Egwene and Min get captured. They get these collars put on them. And you learn that the women who have the bracelets on them are Saldam. But they're kind of like the quote unquote masters, and the Damani are these women who are able to channel, have these collars put around them. So Egwene and Min are both now captured as Damani.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
It is. Yeah, it's awful is what it is. Like they described like the things they do to their fellow humans and then just describe it as normal. It's really gross, actually.
It's very disturbing. And you hear like Egwene's Solemn is Rena, and she's explaining, because when Egwene goes to fight back, she realizes like she feels like she's been hit, and then Rena's explaining, anything that you do, any hurt that you cause me, you're gonna feel 2 times as badly, twice as badly. And that's when Egwene realizes like her eye is hurting from where she had hit Rena in the head and hit her eye, but Egwene's eye was the one hurting and whatnot. So it's just a very weird group of people.
And she learns she can be tortured by Rena via the collar, and they're called the leashed ones, and she's it's horrific. And in the end, they're about to kill Min, and Egwene's like, okay, you could. I'll play nice. I'll be nice. I'll be a good little Damani if you keep Min alive. And so they keep Min alive, and it's still pretty miserable though.
Right.
And then go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm kind of surprised that they agreed to that. Like they seem to just be like, yeah, okay, we'll do this.
It is surprising. It seems a little out of character, because typically I think they would just be like, no, we'll just still break you and then we'll kill Min. We don't care.
Right.
And meanwhile, they're like considering channeling or also collaring Leandrin.
Right.
Which is funny. And they make reference to the great lord, the lord that they both serve. And I mean, basically, I don't think they spelled it out until now. Well, it's not even fully spelled out, but you can connect the dots at this point that Leandrin is actually following the Dark One. She is
right.
The Great Lord is what they call the Dark One. So she's a Black Sister.
Right. Yeah. And it's just so odd, like this whole interaction, because even Egwene is asking like, oh, like who is this master that you're talking about, and Rena's like, oh, you don't need to worry about that. I only am told what I need to know, which means if I want to share it with you, I can, but if I don't want to share it with you, then I don't have to, which means you don't need to worry about it. And like it's this whole like tiered system of knowledge, and just blankly accepting that you won't be given all of the knowledge when you have a question, and are expected to follow the rules or expected to follow whatever they deem like normal. It's just very strange. Don't like it.
Oh no, it's oppressive and awful.
Yeah.
It's also great if you want to have a whole empire and have conquest and conquer things and be able to,
right,
like having a whole tiered system of slavery essentially.
Right, that's exactly what it is, which is, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so this whole group of them decide they're going to move towards Falm. And yeah, and then we switch to Nynaeve's point of view, because we've been in Egwene this whole time, and Nynaeve is realizing that these women who are collared, the ones who are linked and chained, are women who most likely can channel. And she is furious at Leandrin, and she knows she's killed at least one soldier when she channeled, but now that her fury is kind of, I don't want to say it's dying down, but it's not as intense as it was in the moment. You don't have those, she probably doesn't have that same endorphin immediate rush that she can't channel now. Like she's not as mad, so she's not able to. And that's when she learns like Elaine is also free. Elaine kind of comes out from a tree, and they've realized they've both managed to get away, and they are going to need to head to Falm as well and figure out how they're going to get Egwene and Min.
Right.
So that is that.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
that. So it's a mess. You step out of the way gate and instant mess.
Yeah, just chaos. Okay, so then chapter 41, disagreements, is kind of boring. It's just, I mean, so we go back to Rand and the group, and they're still trying to follow Fane and figure out where he is.
And it's been 3 months since they've just like lost a ton of time.
Yeah, exactly. They somehow lost all of this time. And they're trying to follow this trail. So they do end up coming up to a village that's basically been deserted. The houses are empty, the livestock's gone, like there's nothing really there. But Huron does say that like killing happened in these houses. So there obviously was violence in the village beforehand. And Rand, goes into a house and he finds a bed, and it's lumpy, and he's like, this'll do, and has a nap and dreams of Balsamon again.
Yay.
Your favorite thing. And I mean, I don't think there was anything really super important necessarily in this dream, other than that, again, he calls him Luce Theron and is like, I'm the only one who can help you learn how to channel. And then Rand wakes up.
So stupid. I'm just like, can we just stop with this?
Stop with the dreams.
But they don't. Well, it would be interesting if they actually like presented something new, but instead it's the exact same thing. It's like,
well, yeah,
he's like, we've fought 1,000 times, 1,000 times 1,000. I'm like, you fought 1,000 times 1,000 times just verbally with each other, like in Rand's dreams. Like, can we stop?
You're so over it.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that I've reread this series, I'm like, nothing's different. He's just, Rand is like, I don't want to be bad, and Balsamon's like, but if you're bad, then that'd be pretty cool, right? But Rand's like, no, I just said I don't want to be bad. He's like, but what if you were bad? And Rand's like, I don't want to be. I'm good.
We're just going in circles.
Right. And that's literally the content of every single freaking
Mm-hmm.
dream that he appears in. Like, there's no variation.
Mm-hmm.
We fought 1,000 times. And Rand's just like, oh no, you're the dark one. This is bad, but I'm not gonna be bad.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. But like
okay.
you can understand why I'm saying like there's pretty much nothing that happens in chapter 41.
Right. You won't find any disagreements from me on that chapter.
Honestly though, can I just say, and like I don't mean this to sound like bad, and it's gonna sound bad.
Sure.
You could probably scrap chapter 41 entirely and not be missing anything.
Not much, right?
Like not there's not a whole lot in there that you really need to know.
Baalzamon is that dream is important.
Right.
Sarah.
Okay. So let's go back to chapter 42, Falma.
All right.
And yeah, so we're back with Nynaeve, and they've been there for weeks now at this point. So, and they have not got Egwene or Min. And you know, Nynaeve and Elaine are trying to blend in. They've got clothing to blend in and hide. And every time they walk through the city and the town, Nynaeve tries to practice releasing the collars off of anyone that they pass, so that she's trying to figure out how she can do it. And you learn that Elaine's been stealing apples because everything is super expensive. But yeah, so they've been doing that. And then we go to Egwene. The point of view shifts, and you know, Egwene's kind of where she's being held, and she does get a visit from Min, and Min's got all this new clothing on, and they've, you know, she explains they've realized that she can't channel, so she can't really do anything for them the way Egwene can. So they've made her this like servant girl and put her in clothing, but they let her have these visits with Egwene, and Egwene's explaining she can't do anything. She can't channel. They can't move the bracelet. Like you can see it. It's described as like hanging in the room with Egwene, and she like it's right there. This thing that, you know, quote unquote controls her. Yeah, she can't do anything about it.
She's basically in a kennel. Like she just like if she could get the bracelet off or the necklace off, like she would be total, like she could just walk out, but because the way the leashes are, she can't even consider taking the necklace off, or it gives her a huge headache or something like that, like a huge it makes it impossible for her to actually move in a way that she's going to be able to free herself.
Right. So yeah, so you have this, and eventually Rena does come back, and she can tell that Egwene has been trying to channel without her permission, because they have to give them permission in order to do anything now. And as her punishment, she changes Egwene's name to Tuli,
which is the name of her old kitten.
Which is, and that goes back to what you said though about how like they're essentially in kennels. They're being treated like pets.
Oh yeah, she's like, I made a mistake by letting you keep your old name. I used to, when I was a girl, I had a little kitten named Tuli. Your name is now Tuli. Like very clearly saying you're just an animal.
Right.
Which like is... you could talk to me, but you're still an animal.
It's so disturbing.
Pretty disgusting. The other big thing, of course, here is that they've revealed to Egwene that because they discovered that she has an affinity for like earth magic or whatever, with being able to tell like rare metals are where they are. She found an iron mine that had been defunct and doesn't produce iron anymore, but she could find exactly where it is, and that makes her so valuable that they're actually shipping her across the sea to that's a good tongue twister, across the sea to Shanchan, where she's going to be presented to the Empress. May she live forever. And like that's going to be in the next possible ship. Yeah,
they want to send her, which is ridiculous. Okay, so in the next chapter, a plan. So while Min is leaving, like this happens where Rena comes in and is like, "Oh, you tried to channel," and all this nonsense, and Min is leaving. So in the same rough time frame, she leaves, and Elaine and Nynaeve see her and call her. So she ends up going with Elaine and Nynaeve. And
oh yeah, she leaves because Ren is torturing
Egwene. Ren is torturing her. Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm not going to stop torturing you until you convince me how much you love being a Damani. Like, mm-hmm. The most unreasonable thing. Of course, she's never going to be able to explain how much she loves it.
Right.
But she has to make the lady. It's horrifying. Really. It's
so disturbing.
She's just screaming in pain, and Min just has to leave because anything she does will make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine that. She gets fed up with it and just kills Rena, just stabs her, and Egwene instantly dies as well.
Oh, that's because they're linked.
Because they're linked, and anything that happens to the Soldom happens double to the Damani.
Yeah, which is so messed up.
Totally, it absolutely is just not okay at all. But
yeah,
in some ways, it sets the stage for good things. A little bit. I don't know. Okay, so we're back in with the plan.
Yes. So Min ends up explaining that Bail Doman's there. She wants to leave, and they're planning exactly what you said. They're planning to send Egwene across the ocean. And then Min has these new viewings of Elaine and Nynaeve while they're there, and she ends up seeing this men's gold ring above Nynaeve, and she sees Elaine with a iron and axe above her, like a red hot iron and axe above her. Anyway, so they carry on, and they end up going down to meet Doman on his ship. And Nynaeve ends up showing her ring to him, I think it's her Aes Sedai ring to him.
Okay.
And in that process, when she does that, Min's able to see the ring from Lan on Nynaeve as well, and can connect that to her viewing. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Doman ends up agreeing that he does explain he's scared of the Damani or the Soldom, whatever. I don't know which one you would be scared of, to be honest, if it's the Damani to be scared of or the Soldom. But and he agrees. He's like, okay, we'll be ready to leave at a moment's notice within the next few days, and starts making the preparations for that, and so is agreeing to do what Nynaeve needs, I guess, which is nice. It's nice to see that from Doman, I think.
Yeah, I've always liked Doman.
Yeah,
not a bad guy.
No, he doesn't come across as a bad guy. Comes across kind of scoundrelly, but not a bad guy.
He's self-interested.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that, I hope.
No. Okay, so this next chapter, 44, 5 will ride forth. So this one's kind of cool, I think.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. Perrin, Matt, and Huron are looking for the Hornstill in this village, and while they're doing this, Perrin ends up seeing white cloaks coming into the village, and he kind of asks the wolves to look around, see if they're following him, and they let him know they're not going in his direction, kind of thing. But it's very obvious that Perrin's kind of just paying a lot of attention to this. Which I don't blame him for, all things considered, with what's happened in his past already.
Of course.
So, and this is kind of cool because in the point of view changes, then we go to Bornhold's point of view, and he sees Perrin, can recognize, he he does. I don't think he fully recognizes him. He just is like, I've seen you before type of thing. Like,
Yeah, at first he's like, oh, who is that?
mhm.
I think I read
So
that.
yeah, and this is kind of cool because you learn like he doesn't want to hurt the villagers that are there. They're just planning to kind of round them up.
Right.
He's trying to avoid the Sanchan. He thinks that the Damani that they're using are basically just Aes Sedai that are breaking their oath not to channel the one power in battle.
Mhm.
And you just kind of learn all these different things from his point of view, which are great.
They are.
Yeah.
Well, so his reluctance to hurt other people, like this goes back to, you and I were arguing. Well, I don't know if arguing is quite the right word, but like we were discussing it a lot in the book one
Mhm.
when they were holding Perrin and Egwene, and they weren't super gentle. And of course, we wanted to root for Perrin and Egwene, which I mean, I still did, but it's so easy to write them off as so villainous and awful. I think there's just
Right.
a lot of value to think, especially because overall, like the white cloaks in this series are a lot of times you're just like, like they're universally just awful. But in reality, like there's always going to be some kind of exception to this.
Mhm.
And you can see like Bornhald is just a man doing the best he knows how to do. And
Right.
he got some, like, he's got a good moral compass. He's extremely reluctant to hurt innocents.
Right. Which, and like you said, that it's kind of good to see that. And it goes both ways with everything. Like you see the Aes Sedai, and they have this whole, all these like Black sisters, Black Aja, that is all like hush hush and unheard of. And it's the same kind of
Right.
thing, right? Just, opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just nice to see some contrast,
Yeah.
frankly. Like he's not that they even draw the right conclusions. And really, like, this is a notable moment. Actually, this is a very important moment for things that happen like
Mhm.
way down through the series, actually. I can't give spoilers. Well, I totally could ruin everything, but I won't. I will say this though, that him noticing Perrin and thinking he recognized him
Mhm.
has repercussions through a huge amount of the series.
I could see that.
So you'll see, and we'll see more of it um in the next couple books. I won't tell you
Mhm.
exactly when, but it's like some of the biggest stuff, and then it still has reverberations later as well. And him just not even sure, but he mentions to
Mhm.
Child Buyer, that he thinks he saw Perrin.
Yeah, he does. And it's kind of because he wants Childbuyer to go and see this battle and kind of stay on the sidelines and then report back to him.
Right.
And it's almost like he says this as a way to like entice Childbuyer to come back. It's like, oh yeah, I think I saw Perrin in
Yeah.
town. So come back and give me the battle results in town.
Right. Like go back and report on what you see here in case we don't make it. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah. But he's not even sure he recognized Para. He was like, oh, like a guy who's kind of built like him. Maybe it was. He mentions it to Buyer, but Buyer, I'll just say this: Buyer takes that as truth, as
right.
for sure, and it turns out to be true. But in reality, like it's a lot more. Bornhald isn't sure. He's not.
Yeah,
He's not sure.
exactly.
But Buyer takes it as truth, and there's a lot of actions that are taken based off of this assumption that Bornhald had.
Right.
So, anyways, you'll
Yeah,
see. You'll see.
you'll see. Yeah, so then we switch to Rand, same
Yep.
chapter, and Rand's like practicing with his sword. They're all waiting for them to come back, and
Mhm.
Perrin comes back first, and he's like, yeah, there's white cloaks coming into the town, and Varen is there, and she ends up saying, like, only 5 of you are going to be able to go to Falm. She's essentially like manipulating this prophecy from Faldara to come true.
Yep. Yep.
And she's like, okay, so it's Rand, Mat, Ingtar, Perrin, and Huron, and lists her reasoning why, and this whole prophecy of 5 are going to ride forth, but only 4 will return. So those are the 5.
Yep, she's drawing a wheel.
Yeah,
and
exactly. And that's exactly what she does. Is she draws it in the ground and then kind of like kicks the dirt away. All of this.
Yeah. Fun.
All right. So next chapter, 45, Blademaster.
Yes.
So we're back with Nynaeve. They're finally going to try to free Egwene. And they set this trap. I guess they basically need to figure out how they can do it. And she ends up successfully freeing a Damani. Like she manages to get this collar to break free off of her. And once it does, it's like, and I'm not at all surprised that this was the reaction that this person had, but this collar breaks free and the Damani immediately just books it, like
just punches the Soldom and pieces out.
Yeah, she's like, all right, like I can do this, and gets out of there, which in a way kind of helps them, because they end up going over to the Soldom and also, you know, putting a gag on her and putting a sack over her head and dragging her off to the side, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to do this. And Nynaeve ends up putting the bracelet on, and the collar is supposed to go on a lane, I believe, is kind of like a way that they're going to blend in to go in and get Egwene. And they decide to try it on the Soldom first, and Min says that it's not going to work because it doesn't work on women who can't channel. And that's when Nynaeve is like, no, I can feel her, like it's working. And she is so repulsed by it, like so disgusted by doing this, that she will not put the collar on Elaine.
Yeah, and the Soldom meanwhile is like losing her stuff, like just panicking, like, oh my gosh, you can't tell anyone about this, like my life will be over. And it's like, no crap, like you've been fine with enslaving other people though, so maybe you deserve it. Like, this to me, the idea of like them being able to torture these people and the morality of that, of the people who have been torturing other people for however long, like the whole lifetime basically, like the morality of it is one of the most interesting questions of this whole book, almost, of is it okay? Like, I guess we'll talk about it in a little bit more specifically as their plan moves into, you know, into the more advanced stages of what they're trying to accomplish, so we can do that. But just the morality, the idea of like, if someone has been torturing people their whole life and being happy about it, being fine, like treating them like animals, and that like if they're put in that same situation, does it make it okay to torture them? I mean, I'm not saying it does. It's just like, what is justice in this situation? Like, can there even be justice?
Right. Like, how do you navigate this now?
Right. Well, because some of my inclinations, I'm like, I don't know if that's like okay, you know?
Yeah.
Frankly.
It's so messed up. Anyway, so while this is happening though, you've got Doman waiting on the ship. He's making preparations, the crew's getting ready, and he's just, you know, waiting for the girls to come back. And then at the same time, while this is happening, Rand and them are entering the city. Like they're also coming in. And they space themselves out so that they're not going in as one large group. They're kind of all going in separately. And Rand brought the dragon banner with him because he didn't want Varen or anyone else to find it back, you know, where they're waiting. And Matt can feel the dagger inside a house while they're like walking through the town, which is just so, I don't know what it was about this. It's just so like tingly almost, that he can feel it. And
it's the first time he's felt it.
Yeah, he's so tied to it now. And like, you know, that he needs this, you know, dagger at this point to stay alive. So it's very kind of intense that he's able to be like, yeah, it's in this house.
Well, and the whole situation of Rand's just there to support his friend Matt. He doesn't even really care about the horn that much.
Right.
Ingtar only he makes all these comments of like, we're here for the horn, not for the dagger, Matt. Like,
Yeah.
like cut out talking about the dagger. And
Right.
Matt does say, he's like, I'm not gonna fight in the last battle. I just want the dagger. You know,
Right.
like we need the horn for the last battle. He's like, I don't care about the last battle. Just give me the freaking dagger.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting, you know. So Matt's like, or Rand's like, I don't care, and you know, I just want to make sure that Matt gets what he needs. And Matt's like, I don't care about the last battle. I just want the dagger. And Ingtar's like, I don't care about the dagger. I just care about the horn. And so everyone's got their own senses of priorities here, even as they're working together.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so they end up going like kind of behind this house, like into an alleyway, because it's all guarded. And they climb over a wall and they kill a guard and they get into the house and this whole thing. And the dagger is just they go into this empty room and the horn is there on a stand and the dagger's there. And Matt's like, awesome, cool, and just takes both of them. He's like, let's go.
Don't mind if I do. Yeah.
Right. And you know, while this is happening, Rand ends up looking outside and he sees the Damani and he is pretty sure he sees Egwene. So,
right.
like
Somehow.
he's pretty sure somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Turok coming in here with some soldiers.
Yeah, the High Lord Turok, the guy who's in charge of all these bastards, Shan Chan.
Yep. And you end up having this fight. Matt ends up killing one of the soldiers with the dagger. He, you know, cuts him, and just this guy just is obliterated by this dagger, just dies.
Yeah, like ends up choking on his own tongue. It's very grisly, awful death.
Yeah, it's bad.
Like, wow, that dagger. And you think back, there's this point where Rand is grabbing the dagger, like he's reaching up onto the chest, and he grabs the dagger by the blade, and like if it had just like, think of it if it had cut him even a little bit, like that, it's just over for Rand. The story's over. Goodbye, you know?
Yeah. So it's just real grisly. But they all end up fighting, and Turok wants to fight with Rand, and you know, he thinks that Rand's this Blademaster because he's got this heron marked sword, so it's going to be this great matchup. And he ends up getting, like, he's essentially beating Rand, and it's not going in Rand's favor at all until
he's initially winning against Rand.
He is, and then Rand ends up, you know, allowing the Void to come in and help him out here.
Because this whole time Rand is just terrified. He doesn't want to take the Void, because once he takes the Void, then he can reach for the source. And he's afraid of his willpower. He doesn't think he can handle it. So at first he fights Turok, and he's like, I'll just die if I don't take the Void. Like, I'll just die. Like, Turok is like, where did you find that blade, boy? It doesn't matter. Make your peace. It's time to die. And then Rand takes the Void, and then the tables turn. It's a really fun thing because so they fight, and eventually Turok is like, oh crap, like you can, I love the way he paints it, of Turok's expression shifts from like disappointment and anger to like surprise and, you know, and focus, concentration, because now he realizes that Rand is a lot better than he initially kind of presented.
Right. And yeah, and then he dies. Like, Rand beats him. And then the crazy thing after this is not only that, like, so he dies, and then the two servants that are in there, his two servants, just kill themselves after. Like, no hesitation.
Why not? Yeah, just kill themselves. I know, like Rand is like, oh crap, they're taking out their weapons. Like, I'm gonna die, or I'm gonna have to fight two more people.
Right.
And then they kill themselves.
Yeah. It's just it's wild.
So one other thing I will point out too is so I don't know if they've told us this, so I'm gonna like kind of test you. I'm just curious though to know. If you don't know, that's fine. Do you know how you become a Blademaster? Like, what are the prerequisites to becoming a Blademaster?
No, I don't think they've told us this.
Okay, so I can tell you this because this is,
Okay.
a world. So there's two ways. Number one, you have a panel of like other blade masters who
Mhm.
watch your skills, you demonstrate your skills, and they all vote unanimously to make you a blade master.
Okay. Seems
Um,
obvious.
sure, like
Well, it
that
makes
would be,
sense.
yeah. The other one though is if you fight and kill another blade master in fair combat,
Ooh. So
like
does
one on
this
one.
make Rand a blade master?
It does.
So
He doesn't like internalize that at this point, but
mhm.
he is a blade master now because he used fair, like he didn't use the power, he didn't use tricks,
I
that
was
there
gonna
wasn't.
say, is it still considered fair if he like opened himself up to the void?
Well, like Tam isn't a channeler and he can have the void as well. Like that's just a
Right.
method of concentration, really.
Okay.
So like Turok theoretically has access to the void as well. Not that he's been taught how to access it or
Mhm.
like that. It's just a method of concentration.
Okay.
So yeah, that's not channeling. If he had channeled, I would argue no, he's not. That
Right,
wouldn't
right.
count.
I
But
just
this
wasn't
is,
sure if that was like a gray area.
I don't think so. I think, well, and way down the line, at some point, someone recognizes this fight
Mhm.
as like, oh yeah, like
Just
I guess you are a blade master, Rand. And
hmm.
he's like, but it's way later that he even like thinks about that. It's not that important to Rand to have that title, but to the readers, I feel like it's like, oh, cool. Like everyone's been questioning whether he can own the blade, like
Yeah.
whether he earns it or is good enough to use it. And here's indisputable truth. Like
Well, and it gives the chapter title even more meaning because
yeah,
it's not really about Lord Turak. It's about Rand.
yeah, it's about both of them
Right.
because eventually, yeah, it's about two blade masters. Just one is a blade master in the chapter for longer than the other one is.
Right.
This is cool. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Anyway, so all this happens, and then Ingtar's like, okay, we got to get out of here. And Rand's like, I really want to go save Egwene, but he ends up deciding he's going to go with them. This whole thing.
This did crack me up. So it's like, okay, Turok comes in,
Yeah.
soldiers are surrounding him, everyone leaves, go like this reminds me of like the Death Star scene with Han like chasing the stormtroopers, like and everyone else is gone. Like
Mhm.
he's just separate from everyone. But it's it works out a little bit different. Like instead of just one person chasing him, it's like all of Rand's group chases all of the Shan Chen soldiers out.
Mhm.
So then it's just Rand and Turok alone, and then
Mhm.
they have their own fight, like in peace. Like their servants are watching, but they're not doing anything. So they have their civilized, quote unquote, duel to the death, which isn't civilized, but it's as civil as you can get. Fight like this, and then he kills him. He's like, oh crap, I actually killed my first human. Like, oh
Yeah.
shoot. Doesn't even think he's about being a blade master, and then everyone else comes back, runs back into the room. They're like, dude, you ready? Let's go.
Yeah.
Like they all just like take a fighting break over in a different room so Rand can have his own little private fight. And
Right.
yeah, it just cracks me up. They're like, dude, you ready? Like, we're
We
done
got to
with our
get
fight.
going.
Yeah, let's go. Rand's like, all right. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, anyway, so they end up leaving, and Matt is the one hanging onto the horn, which I think is super important because Ingtar keeps bugging him for it. Like, and
Right.
Matt's like, no, I'm gonna hang on to it.
Just cracks me up. Yeah, Ingtar keeps like taking swipes at it, and Matt like either doesn't notice or just like moves it away nonchalantly.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Like, no, my
Nope.
horn.
Oh, it's awesome.
All right. So now you've got chapter 46 to come out of the shadow. So they end up freeing Egwene. Nynaeve and them head to her
Kennel.
that's the one, her kennel, and break her out of there with break out that collar, man.
Yeah.
And anyway, sorry, they end up freeing her, but Brenna does walk in at some point in this, and
And Egwene.
just hits her. and then collars her
and then tortures her.
I was going to, like, it's instantly like what Rena did to her, Egwene's doing it back.
And I'm like, keep doing it, Egwene. Like, screw her. Like, and Nynaeve's like, stop, you don't want to do this. And I'm like, you do, Egwene. You do want to.
Egging her on. Is this like one of the first times you've cheered for Egwene?
I don't know. I'm rooting against Rena more than anything.
Fair.
I don't hate Egwene. I don't hate her. She's annoying, but...
He said defensively.
Oh, hey, here's the thing. At some point in this series, I can't say when, Egwene has an amazing arc, and I become a big fan of her. It's not at this point, but she has an amazing arc, and then from then on, I'm an Egwene fan. So I'm already favorably disposed toward her, like kind of retroactively in a way. And I don't, and I'm not pro-slavery either.
Like, right. No, I'm not saying that.
I just my thing is more of reaction though against the torture she's received, and you can't blame her for having that be her initial response. You have to wonder, once she's like more in possession of herself, is torturing Rena, like, it's probably not okay, even if it's been done, even though she's been a very willing, enthusiastic participant in it. It just, like, it feels good to be like, yeah, she's getting what she deserves. She totally deserves even more. And then you're like, but torture is bad almost unilaterally, basically. Like, I don't know that there's really an okay situation that makes torture okay. But then you have to question, why does that feel so exciting and happy when it happens, Right. Kind of a horrifying self-discovery of like, oh, I don't know if you went through that too. I like, it's almost just horrifying that I was like, yes, torture, like, get her. It's like she had it coming, like,
she did.
Yeah.
I feel like I just kind of, I didn't have that reaction of like, yes, get her. It was more of a like, well, yeah, of course that's gonna happen. Like, okay, like, that's karma for you.
Sure. It's just very satisfying when the tables are turned on someone, I think. And then you realize, like, maybe that's too far.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, how else is she gonna atone for a lot of cruelty?
So now I'm a little concerned because you're recognizing that you're like, yeah, maybe that's too far. I'm not feeling, I'm like, yeah, well, that kind of like makes sense that you would do that.
Oh yeah, I totally would do it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right. So don't do anything to make you too angry. That's good to know.
But okay, so really interesting part about this, Egwene is also explaining to them about how the Solemn are picked there, and these women are picked during like a feast day in Sanchan, and they're basically tested to see if they can feel the other women, and it is a form of channeling in a way, like, and then if they can, then they are taken to train as Solemn. So like, you can channel, you're just being trained in this weird way to be a slave owner, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so they leave and they notice there's no one outside, and there's this patrol, the Sanchan patrol. It's kind of coming straight towards them, and Egwene absolutely loses it and just is like, I'm not getting collared again, and she channels right away and just obliterates this patrol. Like,
well,
I don't know.
She's been trained as a weapon.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, can you be surprised? No.
Right. Do it, Egwene. Like,
right.
Embrace the dark side. Like,
it's just, I'm not surprised. Anyway, so this is happening, and pretty much right where they're standing, these fireballs just come flying down at them. And then Nynaeve starts channeling and she's shooting lightning back that way. And we just start switching in this chapter to all these different points of view. So you see Doman can see all of this happening, and he's kind of like, okay, but I can't leave because I did promise Nynaeve I'd take them. And he's watching this lightning and fireball show. And then Bornhold sees the same thing with the lightning going across, and they're, making their way in. And then you've got Rand. Good old Rand. This is probably one of the, I don't know. Were you, well, we'll get into this, and then I'm going to ask you this question because I'm curious.
Okay.
So, Rand, he's got this feeling that Egwene's in trouble and all this kind of stuff. And while this is happening, they're hidden, and he's with Ingtar, and Ingtar admits that he was the one who let that man into Faldara who shot the bow.
Yeah.
And, he didn't really know what his intentions were, if he was aiming for Rand or if he was aiming for the Amaryllis Seed or what the deal was.
Right, but he's a dark friend. Like
dark friend.
He's like, it makes sense. Why should I fight and die for these stupid Southerners who don't even think Trollocs exist, and we're fighting for our lives and their freedom, and they don't even,
And like, and I realize you read this for like the first time so long ago, but like, were you surprised that Ingtar was a dark friend?
Oh, very surprised. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the most confusing dark friend in the whole series.
Okay, because I was like blindsided by this. I was like, I thought Ingtar was so good.
Well, but it makes sense where he's like, I must have the horn. I must have it. And he sees it as his salvation of, if he gets the horn, then he can kind of buy his way into being not a dark friend anymore, buy his way out of the shadow.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to save himself, essentially. It's
his salvation. Yeah. He sees it. And there's this really interesting interaction though, because Rand is like, God, wow, like he's blindsided, of course, and he's like,
yeah,
but you see him almost as a savior figure here, because he's like, Ingtar, it's enough to just to want it, like right. just to like it seemed very Jesus-y of like, just confess your sins and you'll be cleansed of them, kind of,
Well, and even Ingtar was saying like he never escapes the shadow in all of those possible lives that he was shown when Rand, did whatever it was to that portal stone. And they also all those lives. He's like, in all of them, like, I never escaped the shadow. It's always there. And that, he has this kind of moment with Rand going back and forth here. And, he says like, he can choose when he's going to sheathe the sword, and he can choose to kind of to do it now and buy them time so that they can escape.
Because they're in like this little area where he's like, one man could stand against 50 here and hold,
Yeah. And he ends up, and exactly what you were just saying, like Rand basically cleanses him of this and gives him these like burial words, and it's like, let the last embrace of the mother welcome you home, I think is what he says. And you can tell that this effect it has on like Ingtar, and he just like goes and gets him some time against all of them, some time against the Shan-Shan. And Rand ends up going to find the others and leaves Ingtar to his fate. And in a way, like, not in a way, this does fulfill like that prophecy of only 4 are returning, because Ingtar's gonna go die.
Goodbye, Ingtar.
Goodbye. Man, it's a lot in that chapter.
Freaking dark friend. No.
There's like a lot, but there's like
right.
When you think about it, there are a lot of emotions in that chapter. Like you have Egwene being freed, Egwene torturing Rhenna, Egwene obliterating this patrol, like just all of this intense emotion, and then you find out that Ingtar's a dark friend.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Like it's a very intense chapter. Absolutely. And it, it's the avalanche at the end, like it's starting to get climax-y.
Yeah. All of these chapters just like more just dumping on you. Anyway, so the next one, the grave is no bar to my call. Interesting.
Nice.
Interesting.
Like
Okay,
it.
so Matt's got the horn still. He's not giving it up. And Rand wants to go back for Egwene, and Perrin is like, all right, well, like the Shan are coming. And then Huron's like, well, the White Cloaks are on the other side of us. They're stuck. Like they can't really go anywhere. And they're having this whole conversation of what they want to do. And Matt, I loved this, by the way, when I was reading this part. Matt's like, you know, there really isn't no reason why we can't use the horn before the last battle. Like,
Right.
why don't we do it now? And he just blows the horn.
Yeah, well, everyone's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then he's like, no one voices it though, because Rand is like mentally freaking out. He's like, I can't leave. I have to go help Egwene. I have to go help her. I have to help her. Like that's just pounding in his head. And yeah, and Perrin's basically like, well, you know, like we'll do it. Rand, like everyone supports Rand. Basically, Rand is the leader now. Except Matt is just like, yeah, exactly like you said. Why not now?
Yeah.
And no one, the only person who can really voice enough dissent to stop him is Rand. And Rand is having his own emotional turmoil. He's just frozen. And Matt's like, all right, F it, you know, and goes for it.
It was so funny. And also, like, of course it's Matt. Of course it is Matt. Anyway, so
it's fun.
Yeah, so he does it, and then you know you go back to.
It's the only one audacious enough.
Yes, but you have this really brief moment where you cut to Bornhold, and he can hear the horn. It's described as like it sounds like it's coming from all directions around him. Like
one really clear, beautiful note.
Yeah, which is awesome. And then he continues pushing the White Cloaks forward. But yeah, so then you're back to Rand, and like this battle is unfolding, and he's kind of seeing it from all these different perspectives. He can kind of see like the whole thing, but he's also able to see all of these details and whatnot.
Well,
and then, sorry.
Well, you can see all the details, but this is a little bit. I think you feel like you're skipping just a little bit.
Am I?
Well, yeah, because then it summons the horn summons some people.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that next.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, because Rand eventually has this perspective on the battlefield that is different from everyone else's.
Yes.
But that doesn't happen until the heroes. Okay.
Right. I think I just put it in the wrong spot in my notes, but
you're good.
Yeah, but he does have all of these like heroes, these figures kind of emerge through this fog. So you've got Archer Hawkwing and Brigitte Silverbow and like all these people that he's recognizing. There's only about 100 of them, I think it says. And they're addressing him as Lews Therin. And he's like, no, my name's Rand al'Thor, and they're addressing him as Lews Therin, and they keep going on about this.
Right.
And I laughed so hard because he's like, okay, so like there's Egwene, and she's in trouble. We got to go help her. And I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it was Brigitte, but I can't remember. Yeah. It doesn't matter. They all kind of just like laugh, and they're like, you always pick the girls that get you in trouble every time. And
right.
It's like,
of course it's a girl.
Of course it's a girl. Like,
yeah.
And I just laughed so hard because I was like, man, every time, man, clearly you've done this in every other life as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's fun.
But they want to ride in, obviously, to battle because that's why they're there. And Perrin's, gone off, and he gets this big stick with no twigs on it. It's just clean, so they can tie the banner, the dragon banner to it.
Which they can't actually go into battle without the dragon banner above them. Like they need the dragon banner as a necessary component. Right.
And like Archer Hawkwing's kind of like directing them, like, okay, you're gonna go here, and like you can do this, and you're like, he's kind of making sure that this can all happen. So they go into battle, and then Rand's point of view.
Yes. Yep.
His perspective switches around. Because while they're all fighting kind of on the ground, Rand's I don't know, doing something up in the air with Balsamon.
Fighting in the sky with
Fight.
Beelzemon, and Beelzemon
Are they just like floating? Like,
kind of, yeah.
It's just weird.
So this is the last of the weirdness. Like
Okay.
After this, well, I mean, obviously there's going to be some more, but for the most part, like the weird, awkward boss fight in Eye of the World, and then this, they're both very similar. But
Okay. Because
they're both so out there, so weird.
They're so weird. So Rand and Balsamon are fighting.
So there is one interesting thing about all this, is because Rand says, you know what? Like, you keep saying that we fought each other and like so many times, and that sometimes I join you, and sometimes, you know, we're allies sometimes. But now I realize I've never gone to the shadow. I've always fought you. Like I've never actually been a, you know, like there's never been a time in our past where I actually did serve the Dark One. And then they fight. And this is very biblical, actually. This is a very this is a direct parallel to one of the fights in the Bible, actually, a battle in the
does it?
Yeah. So Rand and Beelzemon are fighting, like they're fighting with their, you know, with their swords or whatever. And whenever Rand is winning the fight, then his heroes are winning, like his side is winning the fight below. And whenever Beelzemon is winning, then his forces are below. And it's a direct parallel to like when the when the Israelites in the Bible are fighting one of their many foes. There's this time that I think it's Moses, maybe it's Joshua, I forget, but their leader at the time, whenever so God says, like, if you keep your hands up in the air, like as long as you do that, you'll be winning. But the second you lower your hands, then you'll be losing, like your side will be losing. And so that happens, and his arms get so tired, like he sets them down, like he puts them down, and instantly his forces are starting to lose. And then, like, eventually the Israelites realize how important it is, and they get other people to keep his hands raised, like raise them for him, so it's not his own strength, and they end up winning. But it just felt like, you know, as one, like this action of one person that's not even fighting here, it directly impacts the rest of the battle. Like, it's very I don't know, I just, it seems like a really interesting parallel. Obviously not the exact same thing, but, you know, a thing that's happening, like they're proxies in a way. Like it's not a fight between the heroes of the Horn or whatever and, you know, and the Shan-Chan. It's a fight between Rand and Beelzemon in proxy, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, I did kind of like that, even if it's weird.
No, I like that, but it's weird because it's a weird, this whole scene is just weird.
Because Beelzemon is awkward AF.
Yeah. But I did enjoy that the part here where, you know, Rand's kind of realizing that he has to sheathe the sword, and he does this like maneuver essentially that allows Beelzemon to strike him. He hits him in the side, and when he does that, Rand is able to strike at Beelzemon and win instead. Which is also very Harry Potter-esque, but it's fine.
I mean, it feels like that's a lot of time. That's a trope almost.
It totally is. The hero goes in to die.
Yeah, he's like, look, I am a true hero. I'll if I die, I'll die to kill. You know, I'll die for everyone.
Yeah.
And the bad guy's like, oh, cool, I get to kill someone. You know, he's not being heroic. He's just being a murderer or whatever.
Not realizing he's being set up.
Being duped. They use his own their own bloodlust against them or something.
Yeah. Okay, so Rand won this battle. Okay, so chapter 48, First Claiming, which I thought was an interesting name.
Yeah.
But Min is now, she's trying to find everyone, and she sees the spray leaving, and she doesn't really blame Dolman for leaving without them. And she ends up finding Rand unconscious in a house, I believe.
He's just in the middle of the street, and she
drags him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's all like cold, so she's trying to warm him up, and
she climbs in bed with him.
Yeah, which is super awkward. So she climbs into bed with him, and then Egwene and
Egwene walks in.
Yeah,
just Egwene.
Yeah, just like in the doorway, and it's like, oh, I'll go get Nynaeve, I guess. And
she says, her only word, her first word is like, oh.
Yeah.
And then she's just gonna leave.
Yeah.
Because Min is all snuggled up on him.
Well, and I think Egwene says like her and Elaine were able to feel Rand and were drawn to him to this house, and Nynaeve couldn't feel him at all. So it's obviously very clear, and that Rand's kind of attached to all three of these girls, which Min wonders about whether he's going to pick one or pick all three, or what the deal is.
Right. Yeah. And she's like, I like older men. I like men that aren't like you at all. I don't want a stinky, stupid shepherd.
Right.
But she's basically saying like, she still has feelings for him.
Yeah. And then she ends up seeing like another woman show up in this doorway and introduces herself as Lanfear. And she's like, Rand is mine.
Yep.
And it's
so what did you think of Lanfear?
I'm trying to figure out like if it's just a Mordeth type thing, or like is it someone else or something else bigger than that, or what the...
So we've she says she's been like guiding him and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we know who she is, actually.
Right. Like I can say it, right? Like we can make the correlation that...
I want you to say it, because I don't want to
like,
see.
We can make the correlation that it's Selene.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Okay. I'm saying, yeah, because I realized like it's Selene, but then I'm like, is Lanfear, when I say someone else, I know that it's Selene, but like, is it someone like from a past life that just keeps coming back to Rand? Is it next level boss, dark friend? Is it a Mordeth type? Like, what's this? These are the questions that I have. I'm like, because it's very it doesn't seem like a typical dark friend type thing,
right? Right. So and she basically just says, all right, Min, you can look out for him, but I'm coming back for him.
Right.
He's mine.
Right. Super creepy. Yeah, and then we get Child Byer's point of view at the end, and he sees that Bornhald is dead.
Yeah.
Which is man, I don't want to say it's like sad, but
well, so Bornhald's dead and Byer's gonna go report it.
Yeah. But doesn't he make the correlation that like he's thinking like a dark friend did this, such as Perrin?
Well, yeah. I mean, he blames Perrin basically.
Yeah.
A dark friend like Perrin would certainly have told the Shan-Chan about the White Cloaks, and
right.
It's Perrin's fault that the White Cloaks lost, essentially.
That's what I thought. Okay, so the next chapter, and what was meant to be. So Rand wakes up and Min is next to his bed, and he learns that he's been asleep for 5 days and they've been traveling or whatever, and Egwene is free.
Oh yeah, okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
Good.
And she lets him know like Egwene's free and she's going to Tar Valon with Mat and Huron, and they're taking the horn. And Rand's got this heron mark burned into both of his hands now, not just one.
Yep. So he's got a heron on both hands. It's important.
Yeah. So and then Moraine shows up and she's like, yeah, I never sent Varen for you. Which, can I say, from the very beginning when Varen showed up and she was like, Moraine sent me, I'm like, did she really? I don't think so. You chuckle like you don't believe me.
Oh no, I'm trying to remember what Varen said exactly. We could probably go back and look at her exact quote. She probably didn't say Moraine sent me. She probably said something that made us think that. She said an properly Aes Sedai thing.
She probably did, but it came across as a way of it being that Moraine sent Varen. Anyway, and Moraine ends up explaining this. I love this part, that Padan Fain is worse than a dark friend. He's essentially, was infected in Shatter Logoth by Mortis. So essentially Mortis tried to put his soul into Padan Fain, and he's not really Padan Fain anymore, and he's not Mortis either. And it's this weird
both
thing. It's two, is it two souls in one body?
Kind of, yeah. So
is this a Voldemort Professor Quirrell type thing we got going on?
Also, you saw evidence of this in book 1, where half the time he had a Lugarder accent and half the time it was different. He had 2 different accents. He's like 2 different types of people, and it's like the 2 versions are vying for control over the body.
Right. Well, and further from that, as he's going on, when we get his point of views in the chapter, he's acknowledging he doesn't really understand why he's he knows things are off, but he doesn't really understand why things are off with him. So he's acknowledged, which again could go to that where one side of him is acknowledging, the Padan Fain side of him could be acknowledging something's not right here, and he doesn't really understand why.
Right. Well, he knows what he is now, I think.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think so too.
But yeah.
Anyway, and this whole thing ends and Moraine's like, you know what? You can't deny being the dragon anymore. You've been denying it this whole time, but people saw this battle in the sky. They saw you kill Balsamon in the sky. You've got followers now. You've got fans. You need to just embrace this kind of thing and deal with it.
Miranda's just I don't want to be controlled, Aes Sedai.
Oh man, but Uno comes in with the Shannarans, and they all pledge allegiance to him.
Yeah. The dragon breaks all bonds.
Yeah. So
exciting.
He's got his followers. Yeah, and then the last chapter after is really just super short, and it's just this passage being read from the Cycle of the Dragon.
Yeah.
And clearly he's talking about how, people are telling the tales of this and talking about the dragon reborn.
Right.
Being back.
He's back, baby.
He's back. Yeah. And that's the book.
The end.
The end.
Or one of the ends. There's neither beginnings nor endings in the Wheel of Time.
The end, part 2.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely really enjoyed it way more the second time.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Who is the Mac for you here? Can you pick him back? I feel like there's just so much action happening. Rena.
Oh, she's a bad guy though. We don't gotta.
Okay, fine.
We can't pick her. That's a cop out. That's saying Narg.
Matt's not annoying in these chapters to me.
No, he's not. I don't know. Nynaeve is annoying because she stops him from torturing and killing Renette and Sita, or whatever their names are. Yeah. Um, I don't know.
I don't know.
Ingtar, maybe.
Because he's a dark friend? Or because he keeps asking for the horn?
Maybe
He's like, are we there
possibly.
yet? Are we there yet?
Maybe Moraine for just like swooping in at the end and like, hey, I've been manipulating you. I continue to intend to manipulate you. Like we're just gonna keep doing that.
And also, like, sorry, like you just reminded me, she's basically been gone almost this entire book. She's like doing whatever she's doing, then swoops in at the end and is like, yeah, you just need to stop denying who you are.
Yep.
Just embrace it.
Yep. I'll say Moraine. I like Moraine and whatever. I have no issues with any of the other heroes. And honestly, it is just I feel for Rand. He's just trying to do the best he can. And he's been through a lot. And then like the whole book, he's obsessed with like, no more Aes Sedai with me. I do not want them to be part of what I'm doing. Don't want their influence. Do not want them. And what happens? Moraine, Varen first, and then Moraine comes in. He's like, after this, we're done. I'm done with Aes Sedai. I'm just here for Matt. Because otherwise he'd have just gone his own way anyways. And then he shows up and Moraine's like, surprise.
Yeah, I'm here.
Surprise, I'm here. And it's time.
You know who Moraine reminds me of? And I'm literally just making this connection right now. Dumbledore. She doesn't give Rand any info.
Sure.
Sends him out to do all these things and was like, yeah, you got to do this. You just got to go do this. Doesn't really explain why.
Okay. She's kind of like that. I think Dumbledore's more mentor like though. Moraine's just like, I'll just whatever.
Yeah, but like pulls the strings.
Sure.
Is my connection. Anyway, we can go with Moraine. We can put Moraine in for it.
All right.
All right. So I think next show, regardless of if we restructure for it or not, we're going to do the 10 chapters of The Dragon Reborn.
Sounds good to me.
And by 10 chapters, I mean the prologue and then the first 9 chapters. So we'll go prologue to chapter 9.
Sounds good.
Sounds okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Any other thoughts?
I think we're good. It's late.
We're call good. It. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
And glad you liked it better this time.
I did like it way better this time. Oh man. All right. So thanks everybody for listening. May you always find water and shade.